Am I the asshole for having my boss's mother removed by security from our workplace? I, 26F, work for a large aviation company in the U.S. It is an amazing company to work for, and I have been there for the past 4 years as an executive assistant. My role can move around based on where the company needs admins. I started a new rotation at work about 6 months ago, and I am now working with my new boss, James, 32M. James is a pretty decent guy, but at first I found him a little odd. He is very quiet and shy. At first he couldn't even seem to look me directly in the eye. I noticed right away that he seems to be very religious. He had more crosses in his office than I have seen in most churches. I am from a Christian family as well, and it's quite common in my state to be religious. Some things just seemed a little over the top to me, and that's saying something. James is a good guy though, and over the past 6 months we have grown close. He has started to let his personality show. We get along well and work great together. We have now become good friends, and he has opened up to me a great deal. Sometimes I even feel like there's a spark between us, but neither of us have ever acted on it. Yesterday James told me that his mother was in town and would be stopping by to bring him lunch today. James has never talked much about his family other than telling me they live out of state. He had meetings all morning and asked me to put it in the fridge once she arrived. At 9:30 a.m. his mom arrived with his lunch. I greeted her and introduced myself as James' assistant. She just stared at me and then suddenly started to cry. I tried to ask her what was wrong, but she just yelled Bible verses at me. She told me I can't be James' assistant because his assistant is male. My name is unisex, so I don't know if she assumed I was male. She then demanded that I leave her son's office immediately and told me that I am fired. She went into her son's office and proceeded to lock the door. Her behavior was really frightening, and I didn't know what to do. I am not supposed to allow anyone into his office when he is not present for confidentiality reasons. I tried to get her to leave, but she wouldn't open the door. My boss is unreachable when he is in meetings, so I panicked and I called security. Security came and escorted her off the property as she threw a fit for everyone to see. James was very upset and says he wishes first handled it differently instead of causing a scene by calling security. He said his mother is just not used to women like me being around her son, and that she was very protective. He said I should have called his cell phone instead of security and that I embarrassed him. Some of my coworkers agree with me while others think that I was an asshole for calling security on his mother. I don't think that I did anything wrong. I can't shake this feeling that I'm an asshole for doing this. Not the asshole. If it's company policy not to let anyone in his office, then you were just doing your job. His overbearing mother and your boss are time for James to get off the P's. If there is a spark between y'all, please don't act on it. It rarely ever turns out well. Never shit where you eat. Edit. Left out words. Edit 2. I said relationships in the workplace rarely work out. I didn't say never. Congratulations to all of you who have had a successful workplace romance. Not the asshole. This is nutty. You may also want to consider a preemptive visit to HR to get yourself moved away from this particular post. Or lawyer up. I predict some retaliation coming towards you soon. Not the asshole. The company I work for handles confidential information. It is all kept under lock and key. If anyone were to do what your boss's mother did, security, or in my case my husband as I work from home, would have every right to break the door down to remove them. That breach of confidentiality could cost your company clients or worse licensing. Your boss should know that, and you did not cause a scene, his mother did. Not the asshole. His mom fired you? For being a woman? Jesus Christ, this isn't the 1600s or something. I really hope that any spark you might have thought was there fizzled out. You just got a real good look at his lack of spine and level of crazy. Could you imagine spending time with this woman if you dated? So much not the asshole. She yelled at you. That's abusive and threatening behavior. Your boss's mommy issues should not be your problem. I'd have a talk with HR in case this crazy lady bullies her son into retaliating against you or getting you fired. Not the asshole. Your profession takes precedence over the relationship. She was verbally attacking you and acting in an erratic manner. If he had an inkling his mom was unhinged, he should have given you a heads up. I can't believe he didn't know about his mom and her belief that he worked with a female. It's 2021 for Christ's sake. That whole scenario is just really messed up. Not the asshole. A non-employee escalated a conversation and took control of a room. Your judgment call makes complete sense given the context. The fact that she is related to an employee does not justify that behavior. Not the asshole. He wishes I handled it differently instead of causing a scene by calling security. You didn't caused a scene. His mother caused a scene by crying, yelling Bible verses WTF, saying you're fired and locking herself in an office she is not supposed to be per company policies. What were you supposed to do? Try to reason with a stranger who was having a meltdown? No, you did what you had to do. It doesn't matter if it was his mother and is not used to women like me being around her son and that she was very protective. Dude is 32. He should make it clear to her mother that she doesn't need to protect him from women and that she shouldn't be going to cause a commotion at his workplace. Info. You were aware it was his mother when you called security. Did he say, you can let her in? Not the asshole. She verbally attacked you with no provocation and then, with no authority, tried to fire you. As you said, by company policy she is not allowed to be in your boss's office without him present. If you had let her stay there you would have risked your job. Honestly, your boss knows what his mother is like and it was unfair of him to put you in this situation and unfair of him to expect you to read his mind about how to handle it when he gave you absolutely no warning about how insane and entitled his mother is. Ultimately, he owes you an apology for putting you in this position in the first place. Not the asshole. She was in an area she shouldn't have been and you used what resources are supposed to be used in those situations. Just because it's his mother doesn't make her exempt from security concerns. Not the asshole. Please ignore any chemistry you feel toward this guy. Some branches of Christianity are so toxic when it comes to adult relationships. The recent Atlanta shooting were, I believe, more about the toxic view of sex that some Christians have than about anti-Asian racism. Clearly, his mom saw you as a threat to her son's virtue. NTA. He's not mad because you called security. He's just embarrassed over his mother's behavior. I would be mortified if my mother did something like that. Not the asshole. His mother caused the scene. He should have told her you were female and not let her assume you were male. If you hadn't called security to get her out of his office I bet someone would have reported you for violating company policy. Also, he didn't tell you that you could call him on his cell and interrupt a meeting. For all you know he could have been pissed at you for interrupting him for the trivial matter of my mom throwing a fit. Told me that I am fired. Did James and those siding with him miss the fact that she tried to fire you? I'd loop HR in on this just in case. Especially the parts about your boss's mom trying to fire you because you're the wrong gender for her son's assistant and the part about your boss being pissed you followed company policy. Not the asshole. And I would make sure to document what happened with HR unless your new boss decides you upset his mommy too much. That way you are protected. Not the asshole. Women like you. What the duck did that mean? Might be best to try and transfer to a different spot if you can. Not the asshole. You have followed the rules. Your boss was unreachable, so the only option you had was to call security. Contact HR and report the incident. Your boss will probably fire you eventually. Make sure there is a record about her mother's demands to fire you. Not the asshole. Love how mommy fired up as if she actually owned the company and could make decisions like that. Hubris. Your new name is James's mommy. You might want to consider having a chat with HR to let them know what happened. Your boss seemed to have empathy for his mother not being used to him working with a certain kind of woman. She may persuade him, if not to fire you, but to send you off to your next assignment prematurely, which could reflect badly on you. Not the asshole. Him mom is batshit crazy SND, so is he for not being mortified and apologizing to you over her behavior. I'm going to be bold and go with not the asshole. While you could have handled it better in hindsight, it was a very aggressive and panic-inducing situation. If someone acted the same way to me and I was unable to deal with it on my own, I absolutely would have called for help. If she can't be in his office alone for confidentiality reasons, I would talk lawyer up and follow their advice. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Yesterday James told me that his mother was in town and would be stopping by to bring him lunch today. He had meetings all morning and asked me to put it in the fridge once she arrived. Am I the only one who thinks it's bizarre that the mother came by to drop lunch off for James, given the fact that she wouldn't even see him in person, which is presumably the point of her bringing lunch during a visit to his town when she's coming from out of state? It wasn't even an actual lunch date. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. His weird mother is not your problem. I would keep things strictly professional with him going forward. He sounds like he's more trouble than he's worth. Not the asshole. Someone came into a workplace, decided you didn't have the job you do have, started yelling Bible verses and locked you out of a confidential office. James didn't tell his mother you were not a man because he knew she would not handle it well. What did he think she was going to do when she found out? Or was he planning on never telling her? And, women like you. What did he mean by that? A professional woman? Please let HR know that you called security on a person who was having some kind of crisis. The yelling and locking the office that was not hers. In case there is any retaliation. Keep a list of witnesses who heard the yelling. James needs to put his mom on the do, not let past reception, list if she cannot behave politely in an office. NTA James darn well knew his mom would spaz out and that's why he didn't clarify that you lacked a dick. You followed company rules of not letting randos in office by themselves. Please let this incident extinguish the spark, _forever, _. Not the asshole. Anything with James, nip that shit in the bud. Request a transfer. She's fucking crazy and he's got major mommy issues that you don't even need. If she's comfortable acting like that at his business then it's not a good place to stay. Who stops by for lunch at 9:30 a.m.? Info. What does it mean that your boss is unreachable when he is in meetings? Is he literally unreachable in that you have no way to contact him? In an emergency situation, which this was, why wouldn't you knock on the door where he is meeting or blast his cell? Not the asshole. You are not supposed to let people in his office when he is not there, so calling security is the standard response. It is not your job to make judgment call in these types of situations. Given her erratic behavior, it was in your best interests to escalate the situation using the appropriate channels in your company. Also, given his lack of surprise at his mother's reaction, he clearly realized that this situation was possible. He should not have put you in that situation. Not the asshole. You called security on a woman whose identity you could not confirm, who went into your boss's office, and refused to leave when asked. The fact that it transpired that she was indeed your boss's mother doesn't change anything. You made the correct decision based on the information available to you, and would have been correct even if you did know who she was. If you really want to be sure though, ask security whether you did the right thing. I bet they say yes. You should be in our. You were harassed by a superior's mother who said you were fired because you're female. NTA. Don't get too attached to him, he's not worth it. Women like me. Okay then. HR time right there. Not to complain necessarily, but definitely get that one on the record. At the very least write an email and blind copy to an outside email address. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I would file a complaint with HR because your manager's mom attempted to fire you. Then looked herself into his office like a crazy person. Not the asshole. And girl, you need to go to HR and get this incident on file yesterday. In this made up, crock of bullshit story, not the asshole. Not the asshole. You did the professional thing to do. But word of advice. Don't act on that spark. Not the asshole. And, coming from a seasoned HR professional here, please for the love of all things holy address this with HR as soon as you can. Like many other commenters have stated, it is entirely likely that this will come back to bite you because it will come back to bite him. And he already displayed a misplaced sense of blame towards you rather than off the rocker mom. Run, op, run. Not the asshole, but I would let HR know the situation immediately, especially how she fired you. Think about it. This woman is willing to destroy your job and income for existing as a female. This shit needs to be documented. This reads like fiction. A little too dramatic to believe. Also, boss is unreachable during meetings, is a bit too convenient of a plot point. Surely his assistant could have interrupted, or called or texted his cell, in case of an emergency, which this was. Or else she could have appealed to her boss's boss or another work ally for help. Not the asshole, because this was entertaining to read. If boss isn't willing to back you up, I'd suggest going somewhere else as you'll just be the easy target. NTA. You followed company policy plus she screamed at TOU and tried to fire you for being a woman. Hell, if you were petty you could take this incident to the people above your boss. Not the asshole, and I have to assume that the company would stand by you since you were following policy. If no one is allowed in that office unattended due to confidentiality and security reasons, then you were correct to have that person removed. James's mom caused the scene with her extremely outdated and misogynistic notions. Also, please do not act on any attraction with James. Can you imagine having his overbearing mom in your life interfering in everything? Don't do that to yourself, especially since he is your boss, supervisor. I really want to know what he means like, women like you. What stereotype is setting his mom off? Not an excuse for her behavior, I am just curious. If James is going to make that kind of statement and his mom is going to act crazy, then you don't want there to be a spark. Not the asshole. Not the asshole, the mother caused the scene, and if you'd let her stay there you'd be putting your position at risk. Please get in touch with HR to explain what happened though. Not the asshole. Company policy doesn't apply to my mommy, is dumb. OMG, if I was James the first would have been significant other embarrassed. This sounds like a mother-son duo that never grew out of a helicopter parent situation. Honestly, not the asshole. What else were you supposed to do? She's not allowed in and refused to remove herself from the premise. Ask if next time he would instead appreciate you sending an email to all clients and prospective clients informing them of the breach of confidential information caused by her locking herself in there. Aviation company, I assume you have government and/or military contracts? If so, then I'm guessing your company has some very strict policies regarding unescorted visitors regardless to whom they are related. Your job is to protect the company, not your boss. When a person is as angry as you describe, they may do irrational things. She could have tampered with paperwork, files, etc. Maybe opened his computer and stolen the hard drive to make you look bad. Your boss is the asshole for leaving you alone with his overzealous mother. Tell him that next time, you will make sure he is able to keep her in escort with him, and that you're not required to be subservient to his mom or anyone else who threatens the company. Not the asshole big time. And do not get romantic in any way with this child man.